Yeah. You didn't play with that with your brothers, right? You were all cooking or
Nobody because it's fall. All right. We're all more or less here. Call us to order for the public portion of the meeting. We'll start with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I apologize in advance for my frothy voice. So in executive session, we reviewed the CSE and CPSE reports. We don't have to, do we have to approve the claims auditor biannual, or that's just for our?
Right,
Thank you
yeah.
for our information.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Thanks, Mike. Is there a second? Oh, take your pick. Your favorite. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. The minutes of our meeting, St. Patrick's Day. Did you find any editorial?
No, the only thing is, I thought I was hoping that Kathy would have put down that the board recognizes her excellent work. And she didn't.
She never does. We try to get that in there.
So that's the only thing I found that was missing.
Well, thank you, Mike.
Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Thanks, Doug and Ray, second. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. Treasurer's reports.
Hi. Okay, so, you have your usual, budget transfers and expenditure reports. Let me know if you have any questions. And I did get your questions and I just emailed you back a little bit ago.
Oh,
so,
did you? Okay, cool.
Yeah. Let me know if there's anything else.
Okay.
So I think last month or the month before, I mentioned that there was ARP money for, a homeless children and youth grant. So our allocation was under $5,000. In order to use it, we had to join a consortium. And, there was trying to see if BOCES was gonna come forward as a consortium, but the SBO at Newfield took the charge on it. And so now we are in a consortium with, I believe, most of the TST schools, anybody who had a smaller allocation. And it will be used for materials and supplies to be purchased for any students who are qualified, which is similar to how we use our funds that are allocated for homeless students under the Title I grant. So that's underway, and I submitted our report to the state, and I think that's going to be good. Again, they set the project period back to March of 2020, but we would use it really from like 7/1 going forward. And it was, yeah.
What's the rationale for the consortium? Is that just to make better use of the money? Can you
Probably because it's under 5,000 and they figure, what are you going to be able to do with that? Maybe there would be efficiencies to be gained by having districts pool the money.
And probably less paperwork on their part.
Yeah, and it is less paperwork. I won't have to file the grant report. I did have to file saying that we were joining a consortium with Newfield as the lead. But it's kind of nice. I'm like, I don't have to do the grant paperwork at this one. So that's all set. Last month I mentioned I was looking at the U.S. Treasury's note. So I got to experience that. We bought a $5 million note and we are going to be earning, it's a 90-day note, matures on June 9th. It'll be freeing up the money to use for paying our year-end expenditures. And the interest rate is at 0.31%, which is still tiny, but, significantly better than the 0.05%, which is what we're seeing at the banks right now. So I do know of other districts that are also using 3+1 who are also doing these U.S. treasuries, which is just where the money is at right now. And it's a nice, safe investment. Should we need the money before, we would be able to get it back. And we might sacrifice the interest that we would earn, but it's okay. We would still get the money back. There's no risk. So that's great. And that was a really good experience to just get to do that. It was cool. So,
And every day you make a $5 million.
not really. It was a cool experience. I just wanted to touch base a little bit on the budget. Here we are at the end of it, and I think this was a really successful budget season. It's the first time in my tenure here that we're going out with a 0%, and I just want to commend Brent for his hard work on that. I wasn't sure that we'd be able to pull it off, but he had a vision, and here we are. So, that is certainly something that our community should be very pleased with. And I feel good about this budget because we have, as I've been saying all along, we have a funding cliff in 2 years. And so the people who are on those grants, we need to make room for them in the general fund budget, and we have room for half of them in this year's budget. And next year, we're going to add the other half, and then the following year, they come back, and we're good. So I think this was a really successful budget season. And, thank you to everybody for your hard work, especially the Brent and the board. So thanks, guys. Let me know if you have any questions.
Thanks. So there are appropriation transfers and appropriation detail report. There aren't any questions on those. Is there a motion to? Oh no, they have to be separate. No, just one. Reports are good. Sorry, my brain is still adding. Is there a motion to approve the appropriation transfers? Thanks, Nate.
I'll second it.
Thanks, Josh. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Excellent. And then on to the warrants. So the first one is General Fund 50 for March.
Who's gonna ask the landscaper?
Yeah. Does anybody have anything circled or highlighted? Or?
I highlighted, I think there's two in here, Pleasant View Landscape at the garage.
Plowing. Yeah.
What is that?
They're doing the snow plowing up at the
Oh,
garage.
okay. I thought that's what it was. I didn't think we were planning on planting any trees or anything in front of it. Or a flower bed.
Although we do have a contract, I believe, for mowing, but maybe, I know for sure snow plowing, maybe mowing later in the year.
Okay.
I suppose plowing the snow out of the way makes a more pleasant view. Maybe? Yeah, let's do that.
I'll bite on that one.
I appreciate it.
Alright. Oh, wait, yeah, so now we're on to the federal funds 25.
The winter circle, that ends this year, correct?
Yeah.
At the end
And
of
the
school
car is sold in September.
year? And then so that'll be
And then we're
weekend, okay.
Yeah.
And then, the school lunch fund. Okay, too. Short and sweet.
We're getting ice cream, like,
I appreciate that.
Yep.
I don't think I need it.
All right, is there a motion to
I'll make a motion.
pay tonight?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ray. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. We have no visitors except any visitors out there in YouTube land. Thank you. If there's anybody out there watching.
How many are there?
I can't see from here. There were 6 waiting, so there were at least 6 waiting eagerly.
Excellent, excellent.
No, no Mr. Taylor this week, huh? Thomas said that.
He's watching, I'm sure.
He's recovering.
Yeah.
Nobody here is old enough to know what romper room is.
Wow.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm sorry. You'd hold up a mirror and say, I see
No.
Harry and Johnny. and-
I don't know.
I'm a doobie. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
We'll explain it sometime. Learners.
I've heard the term, but I don't know. All right. So this statement of, we have 3 considerations this month. So we have 3 things to take separately before we get to the consent agenda. So we have, this one is a roll call vote, the statement of estimated expenditures. So I'm just gonna go down the line. Nate? This is like an A or nay? Yeah, A. Josh? Oh, wait, I'm way ahead. I didn't get the motion. I'm sorry. Do we have to do a motion separately and then the roll call?
Probably.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's not on the floor for
Right,
discussion.
right.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Josh.
I'll second.
Thank you, Nate.
There you go.
Now we can do the roll call vote.
We're all in favor.
I'm gonna go yes this time.
Yes.
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 Excellent. And Greg will be abstain.
Kate is gonna be judging.
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Second consideration is the property tax report card.
I'll make a motion that we accept the property tax report.
Thanks, Mike.
Good with that, second.
Ray, second. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That doesn't have to be roll call.
I
No,
think it's just the one. Right? Just the one.
It's just one.
And then the petitions and ballot placement, you emailed us, probably, I'm sure it's in our printing second right there. Is there a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Nate.
I'll
Thanks,
second.
Kate. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right.
so we've got 3 candidates for 2 seats.
Correct.
3 excellent candidates.
So now we're on to the consent agenda. Is there anything that anybody would like pulled out for separate consideration? And then we did have the note that 10A, 10.1A, the first resignation has been rescinded. Were there any other questions? I am glad for the consent agenda tonight, looking at all these, that they don't all have to be separate motions.
Yes.
Brent, 10.1G, are we replacing that person? Is he moving into regular teaching position?
It's on the additions
On the
for
walk-in
tonight.
for tonight, yeah, that's.
Yeah.
It's on the walk-in.
Okay. Oh, yes.
So he's assuming a regular teaching position?
Yeah, so, so we will be replacing that position. It's, he, as a certified English teacher, will get another certified English teacher.
Mhm.
As you know, the program will be here in the school, so they'll be able to teach other classes besides that one, right? And then, so like right now, we have, I believe a math teacher who's going over there during the day. That person will just push into the room, and then that would free up the teacher to teach another class. But the short answer is yes, that position will be posted.
But, I'm sorry, but the individual from 10-1G will be staying with,
No.
No. He's leaving. I thought the question was, will we be posting?
Well, it was actually a two-part.
it was
Yeah,
like two-
so
okay,
the
so-
answer is yes, we'll be posting.
Oh, okay.
But then the whole program's moving in-house, so that position will be an English position in the KPI classes.
Okay, I just missed it, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you-
Okay. Is there a,
The one page was a walk-in we talked about
Yeah,
earlier.
yes, yeah, she accepted, she accepted, so she said.
So it's in here.
It's go to I.
is there a motion to, well, you can keep rifling through first, but is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I will move.
Thanks, Ray. Thanks, Nate. All those in favor? Aye.
All right.
I-
Any opposed? Yeah, no, it's the more interactive fun portion of the evening. We made it through the business. We don't have a Wayne tonight, but we can review his report. We're on to Katie.
Okay. So, the first thing that I mentioned in my report is about the elementary walkthrough tool. It's something that we've been working on. The ELA committee really started working on it together. And then once the high school got their vocabulary walkthrough tool, we tried to come up with something that would really pertain to all subject areas, special areas, ELA, math, science, social studies. And on the back, you'll see what we came up with. Sarah, Carly, and I sat through a session with the Better Lessons rep, and they gave us some great resources based on student engagement. And you'll see, as I wrote, we truly believe that student engagement is the precursor to student achievement. So we wanted to look for things, and when I say we, this is a peer walkthrough tool. So it's not, the administrative team coming in and checking what we're seeing. It's peers going into each other's classrooms and being able to observe these things, note these things, take notes, give them to the teachers, but also take away some ideas of their own to implement in their classrooms. We've done peer visits in the past. They've been really effective. This is just a little more structured in what they're looking for. And you'll see the theme there is kids doing the work, kids productively struggling. Those are the things we're looking for when we're in the classrooms. And a lot of it's focused on listening, speaking, reading, writing, no matter what content area. We're looking for those threads of literacy through everything. Checking for understanding, making sure that we're responding to student needs as they come about. And when we rolled this out, prior to rolling this out, we met with all faculty and gave them the chance to come up with examples of what this would look like in their own classrooms and then together as teams. So what you see here
they had another working copy of this to where they had time to come up with those actual examples. So they were making their own notes, which made it easier for when they went into the classroom. And I would say about half of our teachers have already done this. I'm looking at my list now. Have already been in, done the walkthroughs, and we've been able to do that by having one roving sub for half days. Teachers are getting into 3 to 4 classrooms in a half day. So, and it's been well received. Our next step will be to take this data. So the teachers are getting a copy of this, but we're also collecting a copy. We're taking the teacher's name right off of it. But this is data collection for us as well as we move forward. Okay, what are people seeing the most of? What are some areas that we might need to hone in on and focus a little bit more on when it comes to professional development and things like that? So that's the walkthrough tool. The Copernic visit, I didn't even put the date here, and the last month has been really busy, but I want to say it was maybe at the end of March that they came in after our last board meeting. Mike, I always have to say thank you to you. When Copernic, it was Andrew reached out, and he talked about some funds they had through the Floyd Hooker Foundation and this great STEM program they wanted to bring to Candor for grades 1 through 5, and we were scheduled, I think, out in May, but we made it happen sooner, and our kids loved it. It was a great experience for them. If you guys have kiddos.
Any feedback you have, because this is a grant that we'd like to continue on with NASA, and we'd like feedback for it for other things as well.
Yep, Andrew sent us a form,
Good.
and I forwarded it on to all of the teachers. They're really good about
Thank you very
completing
much.
that and giving the feedback. I filled it out myself as well. I think they'll get a lot of feedback from
Good.
us. We had some pictures we posted on the website, and I hope you guys parents got some pictures through reminding your teachers as well, maybe not. Okay, they were on the website. And then Rev Theater is another, and I just have to say, it's so nice to open our doors to visitors again. It's been a couple of years, and now when we get calls about having visitors, and it's kind of, you have to take a step back and think, can we do this? Yes, we can do this. Of course, come on in. These programs are great for our kids. But Rev Theater is another one that has been up and running. They were here just today with our kindergarten team. So it used to be called Merry-Go-Round Playhouse, and they're out of Ithaca. It's another Auburn. Yep, Auburn. Sorry. Another really great program for all of our students, and pre-K all the way up to 6th grade kids to have these opportunities. And then I just mentioned that Heather Cornwell is now a member of our elementary office team, and it feels great to be able to know that the support is there that's truly needed. Jackie has made it look very easy in supporting all of us. The example I gave was the second week Heather was there, when she started to, answer the phones and be comfortable greeting the parents. I walked out for an 8 o'clock meeting, as I often do, and I knew Jackie was busy talking to somebody or at the copier. Usually the last few months I've had to turn around and grab the phone for her, and I just kind of looked back, and there Heather was picking up the phone. And it was just like, okay, it's a busy place. And having Heather there, she's really come in, and it's been a smooth transition. She's picked up quickly. She's already taken on a lot of the responsibilities that Jackie was kind of doubling up with. So I think it's going to be a great, strong team. It is. And now we get to keep Kristen for at least another year. So that's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, I have one question. You were talking about Copernic. If any of the students want to run, there's a 5K Copernic Race to the Stars that I'm in charge of on May 21st. If anybody likes running 5Ks, please let me know. Was that an advertisement? Sorry about that.
That's all right.
And we'll have more formal we'll have further, commemorations, but thank you, and we are so sad to see you go, but congratulations on your new gig.
Thank you. And they're sweet, but I know you're all in good hands.
Great segue. Pete, you're up.
Literally.
Thank you. That first piece there is about our 7th and 8th grade intervention that we started right around the last board meeting. You can see how many students we've identified through our data meetings, 65 in 7th and 8th grade for math that based on the diagnostic tests from earlier in the year, identified the kids that needed some support and where they lacked. And this time it's school from 2:30 to 3. We've gotten great turnout. We've gotten 42 out of the 65, which is a phenomenal turnout. We sent letters home to every parent that needed it, strongly suggesting it. And like I said, the teachers are happy with that turnout. We're constantly calling home and searching the hallways for kids that are trying to avoid going to intervention occasionally. So we're still, hoping to get up around 50 by the end of the year. That's not a mandatory time. We can't make it a mandatory time being after school. But we have made it mandatory for the athletes who stay after school. So they're not just hanging out after school or in another classroom. They are, if they're an athlete in 7th and 8th grade, they are going to this intervention time. And I appreciate the work Tracy, Pam, Kurt, and Ashley are doing to support these kids, particularly Ashley as well. She serves the upperclassmen. She saw that there was a need for support down here with these kids. So I appreciate her with the support, offering that support for the 7th and 8th graders. As staying on that, as we look towards the end of the year, we are going to be in conversations about how to get the students to take control of their data. And we've done this in the elementary school a little bit through data chats. So there's several tools through iReady that we can use. We just need to identify one that's age appropriate for the middle school level. And then teachers can then work with their kids on setting goals for their own data going into the last diagnostic. So that's where we're headed towards the end of the year. And then again, I noted there, thank you to Candor Promise, John Benjamin, for providing snacks for that time. That last piece there, I just outlined some of the work that our district SST team has done. One of the most beneficial pieces that we've done recently was connected with a neighboring district's SST team. We virtually met with them just to talk about their program, to talk about our program, to see what supports they're offering their kids. It's a similar district to us. And we really did gain some great ideas from that conversation. And we hope to do that too with other districts as we have time as a district SST team. We hope to reach out to some of the districts surrounding us that have the same concerns as us, social emotional concerns as us. And I did put a piece in there about the social emotional learning benchmarks through the state that we looked at and some of our strengths and lesser strengths when we looked at our programs, compared them to the rubric that the state had put out. And the future meetings that we do have are going to address our lesser strengths. We did a needs assessment, found out where our gaps were, and as a committee, we're going to talk about, as a team, we're going to talk about where we can make our strengthen our programs. So that's been meaningful work and some great work. So our mental health staff has been doing a phenomenal job at it. So that's it. Do you have any questions?
Pete, what's the total head count of 7th and 8th graders? I mean, 65 seems like a high number. What's the?
I don't have the exact number. Can you know?
It runs about 60 kids in the grade,
Class.
so say 120.
Okay. So you're about there.
Yeah.
When I first saw the SST, I was thinking, do you have a name for the program? And could I suggest Concord as an SST? Forget I said that.
I don't get it.
Supersonic Transport was named the Concord.
Gotcha.
SST. In the Army.
Some of these people are maybe too young, like.
Well, that's a very Lockheed joke. Right?
No, it's
No, it's not.
we're involved in. Okay. So people who are involved in the world know these things. And have read history.
Right, not teachers. They're not doing anything important like educating them.
From the 50s to the late 70s. Anyway, I'm sorry I brought it up, Kate. You did a great job. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
It was the first thing I saw when I saw it. Says,
It's student support team. By the way.
well, I know what it is, but it just, I immediately thought of Supersonic Transport. Yeah, I thought they'd be dead when it started to come.
We can propose that in the next meeting, supersonic transport team.
Hey, it might, it has better ring. Anyway, thank you, Pete. I'm
Yeah.
sorry I brought it up.
Thanks, guys.
That's our meeting.
Kim, you're up with, pick your.
Oh,
Well,
all right.
first 10 is,
Um,
special ed.
so again, and I said it in executive session, Amanda French joined the special ed team as the administrative assistant on the 11th. Her birthday was on the 12th, which she was able to spend in a full day training on IUP Direct. So I told her, like, I bet it's the best birthday you've ever had. Allie Wright and Sarah Loomis also joined us on the 12th for the training with Bob Reel. And again, we used it, as Bob put it, as a reset for us, just given all of the transitions over the last few years in the department. To kind of come back with the software system that we use and set some targets for the summer, things that we can tighten up systematically and move forward. But Amanda has stepped in and hit the ground running. It's amazing. So thank you again for that support. Committee on Preschool Special Education, Sarah Loomis arranged for 2 representatives from Tyler County to come talk with us about the transition process from early intervention to the Committee on Preschool Special Education, and then a little bit about preschool special education into school age. So that, it was helpful, and what we learned was throughout the county, yes, there's a process we have to follow from the state, but each school district kind of does things a little differently. So I've reached out to a couple. I'd like to find, what's working best, or maybe find what we do is best, and we'll be the model. Transition meetings. Oh, I didn't have it on the report, but I mentioned it in an executive session as well. Over the next few weeks, you'll see that we'll be having the meetings for our classified preschoolers that'll be coming into kindergarten next year. That's on the horizon. Any questions about special? And we're finishing up meetings.
They ever really finish?
No, my question has been that we refer to ourselves as a spring-based annual review school, but I don't understand when we actually start annual reviews in November, how they can be spring, but, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure it out. So, all right, on to curriculum instruction. Okay. So the first page just gives a visual representation of, I only use the 4 core subjects from the work that was done over the past few early release days, but primarily April. And I hope that it made sense when you looked at it, but if you use ELA as the example, it just identifies that pre-K 6 believes that they're in that phase 3. They selected that new reading series, they're implementing it, now we're monitoring it. But our 7 through 12, they're feeling as a department that they're really in that phase 2, that they've been looking at their curriculum, they're making modifications and adjustments, and that's just the same for each of the other core disciplines. Every department did this work, but I just figured this shows you the 4 core. I would say the biggest takeaway from not to use the same or overuse the word needs assessment, but the work that we had each department do in April, we heard from both buildings. The high school teachers really want time to talk with the elementary teachers in their discipline to see what are you doing over there, and the elementary teachers would like to talk to the high school teachers in their core discipline. So May early release day, we're going to focus on that, bring those teams together to start that work and start that strategic planning for the curriculum review cycle. Any questions about that part before I talk about summer school and
Just things, when I look at math and science for later grades seems to be phase 1. And is that their assessment that they really have some work to do?
that? And I think, and I have more information, the narrative that they provided for me. Some of it is the science standards that
Okay.
over the last year and a half that have been implemented. Same with math. and how the courses have changed. And because of COVID, that rollout of the next gen standards shifted.
Yes, it is.
So
Okay, great.
I believe math and science are there, saying they're at that stage 1 because of those factors.
That makes perfect sense, because I know that we were doing a math and science curriculum for next year.
Yeah.
So, thank you. Lisa.
And then I wondered what was different about second grade math, Lisa. Did they have a sort of thing that they've done on their own, or what?
I didn't bring the notes with me. I do think, so they have not had much turnover at their grade level. So they've been working with the math modules. And I do think that they believe they're in lockstep with each other. But that's where they're at. But this is what's going to give that committee on May. It'll be interesting to have them sitting at the table together to be able to ask each other that exact same question, Hannah, like, oh, so what are you guys doing there that you think you're at phase 3? And it's not us dictating to them, okay, this is what we want you to do. It's really,
This was crowdsourced data.
oh, absolutely,
Yeah, got it.
yep. So yes, I'm excited to hear what their conversation is, because you know that probably somebody in that group's going to ask second grade the same question you just asked them, or asked me.
Thanks.
Thanks, that's really good.
Summer school, I wasn't sure if Brent was going to put it in his report as well, but we are going to be hosting our own summer school this year. Spencer Benetton is able to host their own. So we'll redo the flyer. Hannah, your email with some questions, I think it's what we will focus on, but I'll try to address them right now. Katie and Wayne have talked with teachers about, okay, try to promote and but you have with getting information to families, to parents about encouraging them to send their children. So those conversations have taken place. Katie and Wayne have encouraged teachers to encourage students. The frequently asked questions, that was a suggestion or a question. I hadn't thought of that. None of us had. I think that's a great idea. I think it worked well for us during COVID to present. So some of the questions were about transportation, helping families, I think is what you were getting at, is give them a clearer picture of what is it we're signing our students up for. And the ones that have already said yes and that we want it, but also, hey, this is what we're offering and promoting it more. So we've posted for the summer school principal. That closes Monday, and we're kind of sitting tight until after Monday, so that way we can bring that person on board and help hand off some of this work or information so that they can pick that up and help plan and organize along with Katie and Wayne and Pete. And then the only other thing that I mentioned, and this isn't offensive, but you referenced going to Super Summer when you were in school. And I too remember going to Super Summer, and I did the math and I'm like, oh my gosh, so in 1982, probably a good 10 or 12 years before you, and I'm like, wow, I think I took basket making too.
Was it Bill Collier?
It was.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't know if it was basket making or calligraphy. I think I might have taken calligraphy. I couldn't get into basket making. But the idea of really promoting some, and I put down, for our families to understand the kinds of extras, we might be able to promote it by saying those Passion Day type activities. So some of our families that their kids did participate in Passion Day, I think that makes sense to them. So that's what we're hoping for, that our teachers will step forward and say, yeah, not only are we going to support ELA and math, but here's a fun class that I'd like to offer.
No takers at the junior, senior level.
No, 10th and 11th grade, we don't have anybody yet. I thought we had a 10th grader on the survey, but when I checked it again, we didn't. Although there will be some credit recovery options for students that have to play all that.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah. And then I'm not going to talk about testing because I know Matt hasn't.
guys are just excellent with segues tonight.
Really?
Okay, you're up.
So, computer-based testing went very well. ELA, we were a little bit more strung out in terms of students trying to get tests made up. And that was more, I think, just students were out, students were sick for various reasons. But we got everybody that was eligible to do makeups. We got them all in. And I know Ben would want to thank all the teachers and aides and everybody that helped with making sure that testing went well. And he did a great job, organizing that. So we're on track for the math next round 2 next week, Tuesday through Friday. 3rd and 4th grade are having their 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday, and then 5th through 8th grade will be Thursday and Friday with makeups the next week. This week and the week before break, I was in classrooms in 7th and 8th grade a little bit, but also in 3rd through 6th grade, helping just sort of help support teachers with the computer-based piece of the math. They've been obviously doing their math curriculum all year, but the touchscreen, using the touchscreen to try and show your work is, I would love, if anybody from the state is watching, I would love it if they could just have their students could do their math and they could just hold it up to the camera and take a picture of it and then submit it. What students have to do is they have the problem, they do their work on paper, and then they have to take that and put it on the screen. That's ideally what the teachers want them to do because they're used to doing it on paper. And it is just more cumbersome. It's not like typing an essay. You have a formula, you have a little fraction button that you click on the fraction and it brings down a line with 2 boxes. They fill in the numbers and then they hit plus, and then they do that icon again, and then the 2 numbers equals. It's a little bit clunky. There is the reason we are providing and making sure that there are touchscreens available. There's a drawing tool. So the students can bring in a little box where they could draw their answer, but they're still drawing with their finger on a screen, and that's not great. So, yeah.
I was going to ask, have you heard from I've heard the same analysis from other schools. Have you heard that in your connections with the other groups?
Sure.
Yeah.
Everybody.
There's got to be a better way to do that. And I have not heard about hold up your finger and take a picture. I like that.
Right.
That's my kids somewhere.
Well, they do.
I think that's recorded somewhere. I don't know.
I'll delete it. Yeah. Yes. So even if they were to.
Check the grades.
One of the grades went down, yeah.
Yeah, even if they were to give the students their a barcoded sheet that they had to fill out, and then they had that we could scan in or something. It just would make life easier for students, and it's a more reasonable assessment of their abilities, because the 3-step process to do that, some students just won't do it.
Well, it's really distracting if they're focused on the math, but then have to deal with this other thing that is completely unrelated to
Correct.
the competition. Yeah,
Yep.
what a bummer.
So, but it is where we are.
Have you heard any feedback from the state yet? I know, didn't they scrap the results from last year? So is this all going to be for nothing again this year, or are they getting better participation numbers?
Well, we haven't heard yet about accountability and if scores are going to, like the teacher APPR scores.
Mhm.
So I haven't heard yet if they're going to use the scores or from the testing. So they're administering them, that's all we know, and how they use them, we don't know.
If after the first wave they don't have better numbers, it stinks to put all that effort in for no value.
It is
And next
frustrating.
year is the first year that it's mandated CBT, computer-based testing. There are districts that are still doing paper-based testing.
Yeah. In fact, they were talking about, when we talked about it with all the schools in TST, they were saying that Candor seems to be ahead group that's out there. You guys have done a great job. But anytime you try to put formulas in, I mean, publishing scientific text way back when was very difficult. Because you had to put in integral forms, et cetera, et cetera. Not an easy task.
Right.
It's always been good.
And, you know, there's the show your work, and then there's the answer box, and if they don't remember to put their answer in, they'll probably get think on it. So the teachers are, you know, continue to try and walk them through and encourage them to make sure that they fill every question out. But it's it's a little bit more cumbersome than just paper. But we are ready for it. The students will have had practice. They've had multiple chances to use the platform and have the tools available. So we're hoping that other than just the fact that it's a little bit more cumbersome, that is a challenge for them, but not it's not new to them. So the technology is not new because all the students have seen it. So we'll be ready to go next week. Make sure parents, anybody that's listening, please send your kids well rested and fed. But they do get breakfast too. The second piece is device repairs, and we had a big turnover in our devices in the high school. So we have lots of new devices, and we are not sending devices home in the elementary school. They're staying in carts in classrooms. So we've had very few repairs relatively compared to last year, but we have had some repairs coming in, and they've kind of piled up. And I spoke with Brent a bit about solutions for how do we be reasonable with families in terms of making sure that students have some skin in the game, families have some skin in the game when they're given a device, but also recognizing that some families, you know, it is a challenge to come up with $30 or $40 for a device repair. So I thank Brent for the idea to have students come in and work. So I started having students come in a couple weeks before break, and I think I've had 4 students come in, and if they have a broken screen, they can either pay the $30 for the screen, or they can come in 3 times after school and do some repairs or clean devices. I've got devices that are going for state testing, so I'm having them unbox devices and provision them. And it's been really helpful for me to have some extra sets of hands. And some of the students they're having fun doing some of the tasks, but you never know. I might find some summer workers from this as well. But I think it's been a good program so far, and maybe if I run out of tasks, we may have some other jobs around the school for them to work on after school. So I think the plan's going really well so far. So hopefully we can continue. It's not going to be a lot of overhead for me to manage a lot of students. If we have the number of devices that we have broken now, sort of trickling in, I think we can make it work. 1 or 2 students coming in after school to do some work. And I did hear from one parent that thanked me for, you know, giving them the opportunity to make their child, you know, work for it. So I think it's just good to not only have them take responsibility, but recognize that, you know, maybe they'll take a little bit better care of it the next time.
I think it's a good way to get some skin in the game,
Yep.
as long as it's not too much fun.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want them slamming their Chromebook on the table or something so they can come in and work.
Oh, yeah.
But if you find some that are really good and want to make some extra money outside, I got some that need to be repaired.
Oh, good.
To pay, cash.
Oh, goodness.
It's true, I'm not kidding.
I believe you. No, Holly tonight, you had her report. Is she driving somewhere?
I think she had an appointment with her grandchild.
Oh, excellent, excellent.
Wait, she has a grandchild? She's too young.
Did you know we have another double street, wait?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Two headers. And then we have Mike's log, and then we're up to Brett.
Yeah, so now I'm up. Thank you. So, first, thank you, for adopting the, expenditures for 2022-2023. That's what's consumed my thoughts over the past month. And the whole team, and I mean this, I mean, it's been amazing. Ready for it? From Kat to Matt. I've met with them regularly, and they've really been phenomenally helpful and insightful and helped us get the budget done. But I do want to give some special thanks to Sydney and Kathy. I can't imagine building a budget without the two of them if they've been doing this for 10 years. And me, the first time, I couldn't have done it without them. Sydney, she's very smart. She found savings and came up with ideas that I wouldn't have seen, not just putting in the time, but just to have that skill. It was phenomenal. And then Kathy, anytime I needed to know what's next or where else it's going to go, she has the whole process down, and she had all the information I needed at her fingertips. If it wasn't right in one of her drawers, she knew where to get it quick. So she kept the process moving at productive enough speed that we were able to present you with a budget that I'm really proud of today. So I do want to give them their proper credit. Can't overstate how valuable they are. That being said, this past month, when we met last month, I thought we were really close. I thought I would be able to, with not too much time, put together something I could present to you. It's gone up and down a lot, just because people were so thorough and would come back to me and say, yeah, we talked about this, but here's something else we better consider. Or, we're going to take a second, third look at projected expenditures and get other sources. So at this point, I couldn't be more confident in this budget. It was very thoroughly done, not by me. I'm not being humble when I say it was everybody. I want to include the teachers. I know they go through their department chairs and the department administrators or the building administrators, but it was a good process. So thank you. That's it, and I'm probably the zero. That's everybody working together, and I think the only reason we can do it is because the community's been supported for so many years that we can, again, we can do this, and still continue to build some fund balance and some reserves. So, that being said, with reserves, I'm excited that Senator Akshar and then Assemblyman Friend sponsored our bill, and that's going to go to the legislation, and I'm confident that we'll be able to start building that insurance reserve, which will just make all of us more comfortable and make sure we'll be able to provide for employees. I put in there that the earning cap for retirees is out there. That would help us. I'm thinking mostly for subs. I've been in a situation where we had a really good retiree. Sub-regulating was happy to do it and then got close to their cap and then wasn't available. So I don't see it as a benefit of keeping young teachers from entering the profession. I'd rather see salaries go up so we can attract real talent into the field and particularly into Candor. But there's certainly going to be some benefits with that going through. And then the other legislation is the zero admissions bus. Our whole team, again, has been looking hard at how we can make that work. If everything goes as planned, we'll have to have a zero emissions fleet, so really all electric, by 2035. That's a lot.
Based on the plethora of suppliers getting in that market.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So that's the problem. So we've met with a few different vendors. Bluebird's going to come out hopefully next month. And hopefully, if you're interested in the afternoon, you can ride a bus. We're getting a lot of input that, the technology's there. I haven't seen it myself, and for me, seems believable. But we are going to bring down an electric bus. And I did let them know that if they'll give us a tour, they're going up Anderson Hill or Honey Pot Hill and, and we want to see Candor Hill, right, so all of that. Well, that's a great question.
So there's money with NICEAG right now to put in these charging stations. And it's grant money that is, there's sort of a time limit on it. So we're working with TST BOCES right now to get moving on that. And we have to have a projection for where our fleet is going to be. We have to have a plan. But we are looking at both the charging stations for cars, hopefully that our teachers will, all staff members will be able to take advantage of, and then also for the buses.
Right, so what they're telling us now, I don't have an exact number of what it costs anybody to put that in.
Right.
They're saying to the school, it will be zero. So that's great, and, we are putting together a plan. You should know that our plan is to add electric buses at a rate of two or three a year. We don't have to do that, but we have to have that in a plan because you have to have a plan before you're eligible for any of the grant money.
Right.
So it's just that kind of domino effect. And as Sydney mentioned, we have to get that in now because the grant has the time on it. So I don't want to be 3 years out not having taken advantage of this. I do think we could put in charging stations up at the bus garage and then not be able to have buses that will, the technology doesn't catch up, so the charging stations sit there a year or two before we have the buses to actually charge. But that's okay, if it doesn't cost the district, then let's put them in.
They're ahead of the game, because right now there are electric cars out there without charging stations.
Right, and that's what we were talking about, if we can do it at no cost, putting charging stations right here that the community could use, in the way that, they swipe their card and the district, we're not looking to make money, maybe 5%, pretty much at cost, but cover our costs, so it's not get the public funds. But I'd love to see it. What I do think might happen, when I look at Magnolia, guys like him will buy an electric vehicle so they can come to work, hook it up on the charger, and drive home. I know one TST, I don't know the name, but one TST BOCES employee does that. They live in Cortland, and they pay $35 a week from Cortland. That's what they're estimating. And again, they do the same thing. They just swipe their card, so it's not any extra benefit to them other than that it's a way for them to save money. And they didn't have to put a charging station in their home. They just charge it at work. What about Star card? Yeah, and
how long it takes to charge and how many.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking. We'll get the chargers there, and then we may be waiting for the technology with big buses that are going to be running up our hill fully loaded to catch up. But it will catch up at some point.
They did say that, there were big transit companies currently running them.
Right, well,
Transit,
right.
TPAP.
Right, exactly. They're running them now.
They're already completely.
And then, so we have, when Bluebird comes, their rep said, yes, they're hearing the same stories. He's also going to share with us some difficulties that, implementing that some districts have. So we're getting mixed messages about it, like everything.
Is that an open meeting and we can go and write that?
I was planning, no, so I seriously, I asked him to come in May and plan on staying later in the afternoon because I think some board members would like to join us. And, middle of the day, I know would be harder for all of you, so the later in the afternoon, you can do that run. I'd love to have you join. What's that?
Does it have any impact on maintenance of them? Like, does it?
That they're electric? Yeah, it's a whole new skill set for Rob.
So
There's no internal combustion engine.
Right,
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we have to look at our current.
So we've been having those conversations with Rob, and of course, I'm sure he grants or through BOCES, professional development for mechanics to do their job as well. But it's a change that it's coming. Yeah, that's it. And this thing,
You don't have to have chargers on a 1-to-1 ratio. Not every bus needs to be charged every day. So you can have a
no, we're not yet.
1-to-3 ratio or something.
It'd probably be hard to organize a charging station in the parking lot.
Cold weather.
employees.
Yeah,
That would be.
No, for the buses,
The buses
though.
would be easier.
The buses
to do
would be
to
easier, and
organize.
how many charging stations do we need? I don't actually know that. That's the study
There's
they're
some
doing
ones
now,
that will.
right?
You will in the winter time.
Yeah, I was agree with you. I was thinking this time, because it's gonna take longer. I was thinking you charge them every night. They do their, morning run, but Candy could have a point, because you could charge during the day between runs. I don't know if that's enough, but,
Depends the capacity.
But
That's gonna be the hard part.
so,
I think the buses go about 100 miles on the charge.
Right.
And there's
right, yeah, but it's much
It's like a
more,
bus run, isn't it? I mean,
for some of us.
Yeah.
that's a BOCES run.
Well,
No.
BOCES is a
Well, it's
round trip
18
of less
miles.
than 50
One way.
Is it?
I feel like there's some else that they do all day.
That is what they do all day, and that's just how they feel this is what-
No, it's true, I understand, it is, sorry, yeah,
It's very interesting, but I don't know enough to even make an argument either way.
You could do it. So, I'm relying on smarter people than me on this one, but we are putting together a plan with the input from really smart people. And it will be, yeah. Okay,
Can we talk about your last bullet?
yeah, let's just jump into that too. So I've been in touch with the PTA, the state and national level PTA representatives, and they have, I think she's a vice president in the state, but she's also the 7th-tier representative, and she's bringing in another person. And we are promoting it through School Messenger, and it's on our website, that this coming Tuesday at 6 p.m. Inviting parents to come and talk about forming a Candor PT essay as for student. I've already spoken with the student council advisor, because I think that's where we start. But I personally like the idea of having students in on that decision making. There's a lot they can do for us, and a lot we can do for our students through a PT essay. I will let you know how it goes if you can't make it, but if you can make it Tuesday at 6 in our auditorium.
So how is the word getting out? I haven't.
It's on our website, and I think teachers, we're gonna send home.
Teachers are going to send it and remind as well. Has anybody else gotten it?
I got one reminder.
Yeah, fine. Okay.
Should be coming out hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow.
Is it worth doing one of the
Yeah,
robot?
we'll
is,
do a
it is.
school messenger as well.
Yeah, that would be good. But not at 5 in the morning.
No, you get enough of those.
Save that for the 2-hour delays and closing. I think I like the idea of the parent-teacher student association. I think we can teach, it's not just involving the student, but also teaching them to become community members in the process. Art is all that.
Excellent. Any board comments?
I think they're doing an excellent job. The administration of the school is doing a fantastic job. We couldn't have asked for better student and, leaders and our administrators. And I really appreciate Catherine. I hope she puts it in the minutes. But it, well, but thank you. Really good news. And we're gonna really hate to see somebody go.
Yeah. I was gonna talk about that too. That came up after I had this report that we had that resignation. I can't say enough about Katie, and I've said it in executive session when we're talking about personnel, how much she's helped me. She's very focused, hardworking. We're not gonna find a more caring administrator. I think we have an as caring administrator stepping in, so I'm really thrilled about that. But she's been a fantastic asset. I don't know if any of you remember when I went through the interview process, I was trying to show off that I had read everything I could about the district. And I said, one thing I can tell you with the school improvement plan at the elementary school, Katie sorry, I've never met her, I had him at that point, is dead on with everything I talked about. You remember?
Yeah, because you're the principal.
And then I got to work with her, and that was all confirmed. So thank you. You got me off to a good start. I appreciate it.
Because isn't there a clause in the contract that says exiting members of the administration have to give a statement?
They do.
I feel like we have a lot of school year left.
We
I
do
know
have
it's
a lot
happened
of school
in
year, it's just.
April, but you guys are gonna see me a few more times. You don't get rid of me yet.
Well, you, gives you time to prepare.
All right, I'll be ready. Thank you.
Excellent. You know, if there's any other board time? All righty. Then 8:06, I declare us adjourned. Thank you guys. We'll get this better next month. Yeah. On the way.